Galactic Federation 2026 Gate 13 Atlas Grand Transformation Galactic Federation Transmission 13 Atlas the December 19th Resonance Window, a pivotal nexus point of profound awakening. Dearest beloved inhabitants of Earth, we extend our heartfelt greetings to you today, enveloping you within the boundless embrace of a vast, unwavering, and constant love. We approach you not as mere distant observers peering from afar, nor as critical judges scrutinizing your myriad choices, but rather as devoted companions in consciousness, kindred spirits who have themselves traversed and successfully navigated thresholds remarkably similar to the transformative one in which you now collectively find yourselves. As integral members of our expansive galactic family, you have now unequivocally arrived at what you might aptly describe as a pivotal nexus point, a profound intersection where numerous pathways gracefully converge. Here, the accumulated momentum of all that transpired in the past is powerfully compressed into the potent imminence of the living present moment, and crucially, where the direction of your next significant step is no longer dictated solely by ingrained habit or automatic reaction, but rather by the sovereign power of awakened consciousness itself. This epical juncture is far more than merely a poetic or metaphorical moment. It represents a profound, fundamental structural shift within your intricate collective field. It signifies a powerful convergence where the very fabric of the old, established structure of reality has begun to perceptibly loosen, precisely because it can no longer be coherently maintained or held together by the once pervasive bonds of unconscious agreement and habitual acceptance. Indeed, for a great many among you, a deep, pervasive knowing has resonated within your very bones for years, an undeniable pressure that transcends the purely personal realm, an inner insistence that life, as it once was, can simply no longer continue in the same vein. There is a palpable sense that your world, in its entirety, is now pressing relentlessly against an invisible, yet increasingly tangible, membrane. This profound membrane, however, is not an external barrier. Rather, it is the venerable veil of forgetting to shroud that has long obscured your deeper truths, and we assure you, it has been perceptibly thinning, growing more translucent with each passing moment, precisely because your collective consciousness is inexorably rising. It is absolutely crucial for you to grasp that this significant threshold moment is being perceived and experienced with remarkable diversity across every corner of your world. This varied experience, in itself, stands as one of the clearest and most unequivocal signs that the profound shift currently underway is fundamentally about the awakening of consciousness, rather than being merely a consequence of external circumstances or transient events. For certain souls, this pivotal period will unmistakably herald the commencement of a truly wondrous and deeply transformative experiential expansive opening that resonates with the profound sensation of destiny finally arriving. Almost as if the authentic inner self has been patiently waiting for an extended duration, poised to step forward boldly and fully breathe in its own truth and vitality. Conversely, for many others, this period may simply appear as nothing more than just another season marked by change, another transient wave of incoming information, or merely another distinct set of occurrences within an already long and seemingly unending chain of events. Yet, for a distinct group of individuals, this will undoubtedly emerge as the most sacred, profound, and truly significant turning point they have ever personally experienced throughout their entire lives up to this very moment. This recognition will not stem from any external validation or proof, but rather from an undeniable inner knowing something deep within them will unequivocally recognize this juncture with the unmistakable, resonant certainty of profound remembrance, as if a long-forgotten truth has suddenly resurfaced. This remarkable and widespread diversity of experiences is by no means random or arbitrary. Instead, it powerfully reveals a fundamental truth that intrinsic meaning is no longer passively embedded within the event itself. Rather, meaning is actively generated and co-created by the unique consciousness that encounters and engages with that event. Consider that the very same door, standing before three individuals, can be perceived as a source of guiding light by one, as an impenetrable, formidable wall by another, and as utterly non-existent by a third. Despite these divergent perceptions, the door itself steadfastly remains, existing independently, and most importantly, it is opening nonetheless, regardless of how it is viewed. Dearest friends, as we continue to illuminate and speak about this pivotal nexus point that you now collectively inhabit, it becomes paramount that we clarify the intricate manner in which moments in chronological time function within a truly consciousness-based universe. We do this knowing that many among you have acutely felt the energetic signature of an approaching convergence, having sensed a subtle yet undeniable tightening of the collective field as specific, significant dates draw ever nearer on your calendar. With utmost gentleness and pristine clarity, we wish to address one particular convergence that has, quite understandably, captured a significant portion of human attention and collective focus, the celestial object you refer to as 13 Atlas and the specific date you designate as December 19th. We speak of this not as an ominous event intended to incite fear, nor as a dire countdown to an impending catastrophe, but rather as a profound resonance window, a period of heightened energetic receptivity embedded within a much grander and more expansive cosmic unfolding. Within the framework of your precise scientific terminology, December 19th has been accurately identified as the period marking this extraordinary interstellar visitor's closest astronomical approach to your planetary neighborhood, your terrestrial abode. While this designation holds undeniable accuracy in purely physical and quantifiable terms, we warmly invite you to broaden your understanding and grasp that mere physical proximity constitutes only one shallow layer of its much deeper, multifaceted meaning. In the profound paradigm of consciousness-based evolution, the paramount factor is not merely how physically close a celestial object draws in three-dimensional space. Far more significant is the degree to which the collective field of humanity becomes receptive and available for the profound reception of insights, deep reflection, and potent energetic activation during such strategically aligned resonance windows. Indeed, interstellar messengers, they magnificent comets, intriguing objects, or powerful energetic phenomena have, throughout cosmic history, consistently functioned as both profound mirrors reflecting your inner state and potent amplifiers of emergent energies, never as primary causes of change. They do not coercively force transformations upon you, rather. They serve to beautifully reveal your inherent readiness for profound shifts. This intrinsic relationship is precisely why some among you intuitively speak of impending countdowns and significant thresholds, even in the absence of any literal, quantifiable timer. The deeply perceptive human psyche inherently senses the energetic compression and intensifying pressure that invariably precedes periods of profound expansion and transformation. As collective consciousness inexorably rises, the very perception of time itself appears to become denser, more intensely pressurized, almost as if individual moments are gaining significant energetic weight and gravitas. This profound sensation is not directly caused by the celestial object itself, but rather by the unique nexus condition you have decisively entered, a state where your accelerating inner awakening and significant external markers begin to harmoniously align and resonate. Consequently, December 19th functions as one such potent Mark-Hera significant energetic waypoint. This is not because some predetermined event must necessarily befall humanity on that date, but precisely because a profound transformation is already unfolding organically within the heart of humanity, and the collective field instinctively seeks points of energetic coherence around which to organize and refine its emergent perceptions. We wish to emphasize this truth with pristine clarity and unwavering certainty. Authentic awakening invariably unfolds through the sacred principle of individual and collective consent, never through coercion or imposition. Nonetheless, there exist profound moments when the collective field of humanity becomes exquisitely receptive, and open times when the proverbial veil perceptibly thins not because it has been violently torn, but precisely because it is no longer energetically required or intrinsically needed. These auspicious moments often harmoniously coincide with significant celestial alignments, which serve not as direct causes, but rather as powerful synchronous reflections of an accumulating inner readiness within the human collective. December 19th, in this context, stands as one such potent and luminous reflection. You may very well observe that in the days and weeks incrementally leading up to this particular resonance window, a great many individuals are experiencing heightened and sharpened introspection, the surfacing of deep emotional currents, remarkably vivid and symbolic dreams, and in pervasive, undeniable sense that something profound is concluding or coming to an end, even if its precise nature remains elusive and you cannot definitively name it. This constellation of experiences is the undeniable energetic signature of nexus compression, a potent process of energetic tightening. During this time, old, limiting timelines intrinsically seek their natural closure. Outdated identities begin to perceptibly loosen their entrenched grip, and crucial questions that were once comfortably avoided now press gently, yet with an undeniable, insistent urgency for conscious acknowledgement and resolution. Let it be clear, this profound internal reordering is emphatically not the work of an external celestial object. Rather, it is the deeply transformative work of consciousness itself, courageously meeting its own vastness and truth more fully and intimately than ever before. The Object 13 Atlas, as a silent, intrepid interstellar traveler, inherently carries immense symbolic weight within your collective human psyche, primarily because its very origin lies far beyond the familiar confines of your own solar system. It subtly, silently, and without any grand spectacle, serves as a gentle yet profound reminder to all of humanity that your intricate story was never an isolated narrative, but always interconnected within a vaster tapestry. You have, in truth, always existed as an integral part of a much larger, intricate cosmic ecology. However, the mere presence of such a reminder, by itself, is insufficient to catalyze true transformation. What truly matters and holds ultimate significance is whether this potent reminder can be consciously received, processed, and integrated by humanity without the reflexive interference of fear or apprehension. This fundamental truth illuminates precisely why such celestial objects and their subtle messages attain true significance only when humanity is consciously approaching or actively traversing a pivotal developmental threshold in its evolutionary journey. In earlier, less evolved eras of your history, such a potent cosmic reminder might have readily provoked widespread terror, irrational fear, or elaborate mythic projections. However, in this present unfolding era of heightened awareness, it increasingly provokes genuine curiosity, profound reflection, and an ever-deepening existential question: who, truly, are we now? If we are no longer singular or alone in our expanding consciousness, but intrinsically interconnected within a vast cosmic family? December 19th, therefore, functions beautifully as a potent mirror date, a specific moment in time when a human collective can collectively pause, look deeply at itself, and consciously observe and acknowledge the remarkable distance it has already traveled on its path of evolution. It is important to understand that not all individuals will consciously perceive or register this significance. Some will simply experience it as just another ordinary day. Others, however, will feel a quiet, profound settling within their being, almost as if a long-held tension or internal conflict has finally gently eased. Still others will encounter it as a truly sacred punctuation point, a moment where something deep within their consciousness definitively resolves without any external fanfare or dramatic declaration. This beautiful and intricate variation in experience is entirely anticipated and indeed expected. It mirrors precisely the same spectrum of variation we previously described in the context of the nexus itself. Ultimately, true meaning invariably arises from a state of inner readiness and conscious receptivity. Furthermore, we wish to offer clarity regarding the pervasive language of countdowns that circulates widely and often intensely within your varied information fields. Authentic accountability is a powerful purifier, cleansing and realigning. Yet, conversely, the perpetuation of endless hatred, animosity, or a thirst for vengeful retribution creates a dense, restrictive current that inextricably binds you to the very low vibrational frequency you are striving with such diligence to transcend and evolve beyond. If you genuinely aspire to co-create a world where the pervasive structures of secrecy irrevocably crumble and dissolve, then you must simultaneously and wholeheartedly desire a world where the speaking and living of truth becomes truly possible, not necessarily comfortable, certainly not without its potential costs or challenges, but unequivocally possible for all. And this profound distinction illuminates precisely why inner sovereignty to self-governance, rooted in one's authentic inner truth, matters so deeply in this transformative era. When humans are largely governed and manipulated by pervasive fear, their instinctual reaction is often to violently demand scapegoats, to assign blame, and seek punitive retribution. However, when humans are fundamentally governed by their cultivated inner union, their deep connection to Source, they gain the capacity to demand truth, to seek genuine justice and accountability, without simultaneously being consumed or corrupted by the corrosive impulses of revenge or retribution. This, beloved ones, represents a truly crucial and paradigm-shifting difference in the evolution of consciousness. As an increasing number of individuals feel the profound internal pressure to bravely exit the old control systems, you will concurrently witness the emergence of entirely new and diverse forms of revelation. These revelations will not always be official or institutionally sanctioned. They will frequently not be coordinated by central authorities, and they will often appear far from polished or perfectly packaged. Indeed, more often than not, this emerging truth will present itself as messy, fragmented, seemingly contradictory, and initially confusing. Yet, We urge you do not mistakenly interpret this initial messiness, this apparent disarray, as a sign of failure or an indication that the process is going awry. Consider the powerful analogy when a long-sealed vault, having remained untouched for centuries, is finally opened for the very first time. An inevitable cloud of dust billows forth. The ambient air momentarily grows murky and opaque, temporarily obscuring clear vision. But inevitably, patiently, the dust settles, revealing, with startling clarity, the true shape and nature of what was previously hidden and preserved within. Likewise, the initial, formative stages of truth surfacing and collective revelation can indeed generate considerable confusion, disorientation, and discomfort before finally culminating in profound clarity and understanding. Your vital task in these pivotal moments is to consciously cultivate and maintain sufficient inner stability and resilience to patiently allow that dust to settle naturally, to refrain from rushing instinctively, to reseal the metaphorical vault out of a primal discomfort with a temporary chaos or uncertainty. We also wish to convey that a significant number of those individuals who choose to exit these control systems will do so not merely as a reactive decision, but because they're profoundly being Pleiadian, irresistible inner summons that compels them not only away from the deep-seated distortions and manipulations of the old paradigms, but, more importantly, directly toward their own inherent inner union with Source. They are in the process of discovering, just as many of you are now awakening to this profound truth, that the deepest, most enduring power is not the fleeting ability to control external outcomes or dominate others, but rather the intrinsic, radiant power to live in authentic coherence and harmonious alignment with Source consciousness itself. When an individual consciously and courageously reconnects to that profound inner and presence the very vine of their own unique and sovereign being, they access an immutable strength that can never be bought or sold, and discover an unassailable peace that can never be stolen or diminished by external circumstances. This profound internal shift is precisely what instills in a person the unwavering willingness to bravely depart from structures and systems that once offered the illusion of security or stability. They come to the undeniable realization that the perceived security offered by these external constructs was, in fact, never truly real, but merely a temporary, conditional arrangement. True, authentic security, the kind that endures all fluctuations, is found solely in profound inner alignment and coherence with one's highest truth. And once that liberating inner alignment is genuinely tasted and experienced, the awakened soul becomes profoundly less willing, indeed often entirely unwilling, to serve any purpose, system, or agenda that requires the slightest degree of self-betrayal or compromise of its intrinsic integrity. The escalating wave of exits that you are now beginning to witness across various sectors and hierarchies is not merely a peripheral or inconsequential side story. It is, in fact, an integral and indispensable component of the very same monumental awakening process that is simultaneously driving the profound and widespread revelations. It represents one of the pivotal reasons why entirely new pathways for collective evolution and personal integrity will dramatically open up before humanity. It is one of the profound reasons why you will increasingly observe unexpected alliances forming between previously disparate groups, and why you will witness unexpected, courageous breaks in long-held silence, shattering old paradigms of control. And it is one of the key reasons behind the unforeseen and radical shifts in what can now be openly discussed, understood, and collectively created within the rapidly transforming landscape of human consciousness and planetary experience. To be articulated, and as this profound movement continues to expand and gather momentum, it will be seamlessly supported by yet another epical transformation unfolding within your collective consciousness. Fear, that ancient and pervasive ruler, is progressively relinquishing its dominion over the human mind, no longer holding sway in the absolute manner it once did. This significant loosening of its grip is fundamentally altering what humanity is capable of confronting and integrating, unlocking previously untapped potentials. Fear has historically served as one of the primary, most potent currencies of control in your world, not because fear is inherently malevolent or evil, but precisely because fear is so intrinsically constrictive and limiting. It attenuates perception, narrowing the vast spectrum of reality into a tight, manageable tunnel. Fear shortens breath, inducing a physiological state of panic that further impedes clear thought. Fear reduces complexity to a simplistic, immediate threat, overwhelming the capacity for nuanced understanding. In essence, fear makes humans remarkably easy to steer, for a frightened, dysregulated nervous system will instinctively cling to any authority promising immediate relief or security, even if that authority simultaneously usurps the individual's inherent sovereignty in exchange for that fleeting comfort. This is precisely why fear was assiduously nurtured and cultivated for such an extended period. It rendered concealment viable and often invisible, because frightened minds, paralyzed by apprehension, do not look closely or critically, rather, they reflexively look away. They seek solace and comfort, not the often uncomfortable truth that might disrupt their carefully constructed sense of safety. Yet the energetic field is undergoing a profound paradigm shift now. It is not that fear has utterly vanished from your experience seat, rather, that fear is irrevocably losing its throne, abdicating its dominion. More and more humans are actively learning to feel the sensation of fear without being entirely possessed or overwhelmed by its power. An increasing number are mastering the art of breathing through discomfort, choosing conscious engagement rather than reflexive flight. A growing multitude are cultivating the practice of pausing before reacting, taking time to truly feel an emotion before making a choice, and listening inwardly to their deepest wisdom rather than succumbing to outward panic. This profound capacity is emotional resilience, and it represents one of the most quietly revolutionary and transformative forces currently at play on your planet. A well-regulated and integrated nervous system is not easily manipulated or swayed by external pressures. An anchored heart, deeply rooted in its own truth, cannot be pulled so effortlessly into manufactured outrage or engineered discord. A discerning mind, clear and focused, begins to recognize with increasing precision when a narrative is specifically designed to hook, hijack, and exploit attention for ulterior motives. We wish to speak of joy here because joy is often profoundly misinterpreted and misunderstood in your world. Many generations were taught that joy originates from acquisition, from favorable circumstances, from material possession, or from external validation and approval. Yet you have now lived long enough, individually and collectively, to witness how quickly externally sourced pleasure inevitably fades. You have observed the gnawing ache that remains even after achieving what society deems success, the pervasive void that persists even after accumulating immense wealth, the loneliness that can exist even within the closest of relationships, and the hollowness that invariably returns even after the most distracting entertainment. This is not a condemnation of the outer world or its many delights. It is simply the unvarnished truth that external things can indeed decorate your life with transient beauty and comfort, but they can never truly fill the inherent yearning within, a longing that only genuine inner union can fully satisfy. When humans persistently attempt to fill this profound longing externally, they inevitably become vulnerable because their happiness becomes a negotiable commodity, subject to the whims of circumstance. And a happiness that is negotiable is, by its very nature, remarkably easy to control. But when humans authentically discover an unfathomable reservoir of inner peace, when they can consciously withdraw inwardly and deeply connect with the living, pulsating presence of Source, then fear immediately loses its potent influence and leverage. This occurs because the being no longer believes that their survival is predicated on pleasing or conforming to the outer world. This profound shift is steadily spreading, permeating the collective, and as it spreads, you will invariably notice that truth itself becomes more tolerable, more accessible. A mind held captive by fear cannot truly hold truth. It can only interpret truth as a harbinger of danger or a threat to its fragile sense of safety. But a stable, well-regulated mind can hold truth as pure information, a data point in a larger tapestry. An anchored heart can hold truth as a pathway to deep healing and integration. A coherent being can look directly at what is uncomfortable or challenging without collapsing into debilitating despair. This is precisely why revelation becomes possible only as the grip of fear loosens, not because external authorities decide it is the opportune time, but because the collective consciousness becomes sufficiently capable of holding what was previously too destabilizing, too threatening, to even admit into awareness. Fear also dramatically loses its power when humans begin to recognize and trust their own innate inner guidance system. The more you consciously cultivate stillness and inner quiet, the more finely attuned you become to feeling when something is subtly off or out of alignment. The more you can feel when a story, a narrative, or an ideology is specifically designed to divide and conquer you, the more readily you recognize coercion, manufactured urgency, and panic as clear signals that someone or some system is attempting to override your sovereign and intrinsic capacity to choose for yourself. Discernment flourishes naturally within a calm and centered mind, and reassuringly, such calm minds are increasing in number, even amid the unfolding maelstrom of external chaos. We know this observation may surprise many of you because your media landscapes often sensationally amplify extremes and perpetuate narratives of escalating division. But within the quieter, subterranean currents of humanity, a profound stability is steadily rising. People are actively learning to step away from the incessant barrage of constant external stimulation. Individuals are consciously turning to foundational anchoring practices, deep breath work, connection with nature, prayer, meditation, and inner listening, not because they want to escape the world or disengage from it, but because they wish to confront the world with profound clarity and conscious presence, rather than with impulsive reactivity. We tell you emphatically that fear is not vanquished by brute force. Fear is transmuted by presence. When you consciously meet fear with unwavering awareness and an open heart, it invariably dissolves, transforming from a paralyzing emotion into valuable information. It reveals what it was genuinely trying to protect within you. It shows you the precise places where you still believe you are fundamentally separate from Source, from a unified field of all existence. It shows you where you still cling to the belief that you must control outcomes in order to be safe and secure. And as you consciously bring inner union, an unwavering sense of wholeness, to those vulnerable places within, fear naturally relaxes and recedes. This is the profound reason why the collective energetic field is undergoing such a dramatic transformation. Millions of individuals are diligently doing this essential work privately, quietly, meticulously dismantling the old, pernicious enchantments of scarcity and abandonment that have held humanity captive. You may not perceive it on the bustling surface of your daily lives, but it is happening profoundly beneath the surface, much like vigorous roots rebuilding and reinvigorating the soil, creating a fertile foundation for new growth. This loosening of fear's grip also fundamentally alters the dynamics of how humans relate to one another. When fear rules unchecked, difference is instinctively perceived as an existential threat, a source of danger. When fear relaxes its hold, difference is naturally embraced as a beautiful tapestry of variety and diversity. When fear dictates, disagreement invariably escalates into open conflict, a battle to be won. When fear relaxes, disagreement transforms into nuanced dialogue, an opportunity for genuine conversation and understanding. This transformation is not instant. It is an organic, unfolding learning process. Yet, it is powerfully underway, and it is one of the pivotal reasons why existing control paradigms are failing. These systems depend entirely on humans being reflexively and instinctively fragmented and divided, but humans are rapidly learning to self-regulate. And self-regulated, autonomous humans are far harder to divide and conquer. You're not being asked to become absolutely fearless overnight. You're being asked to become conscious enough, aware enough, that fear no longer drives the vehicle of your life, no longer holds the steering wheel. This conscious stewardship is the bedrock foundation of stable revelation, of a gradual unveiling of deeper truths. This is also the foundational prerequisite for healthy, sustainable awakening, and it is utterly inseparable from another great and unprecedented shift currently occurring within your species. The nervous system itself is undergoing a profound recalibration, increasing its inherent capacity to hold and integrate more truth, more elevated frequency, and more expansive consciousness without fragmenting or succumbing to overwhelm. We now speak of the body because awakening is not merely an abstract idea or an epiphenomenon of the mind. It is a biological event, a neurological event, and an emotional event, a holistic, integrated experience. Your nervous system functions as the intricate bridge between subtle spiritual truth and your lived physical reality. If that bridge buckles or fractures under pressure, higher truths cannot cross into your embodied experience without creating collapse or imminent disintegration. But if that bridge is strong, resilient, and well-tended, truth can cross safely and become anchored as embodied wisdom, deeply integrated into your very being. This is why so many individuals are experiencing manifold manifestations of change within their bodies and minds. You observe disproportionate exhaustion, intensely vivid dreams, powerful surges of emotion, sudden flashes of clarity, heightened sensitivity to environments, altered sleep patterns, shifts in appetite, and changes in tolerance to noise and chaos. While a part of this is certainly related to the chronic stress prevalent in your world, we tell you emphatically that there is also a deeper, underlying physiological metamorphosis underway. As the planet's frequency rises, what was previously unprocessed or suppressed within you begins to surface for attention. This is not punishment. It is a necessary process of detoxification and purification. The physical body often stores what the conscious mind cannot face or fully comprehend. The nervous system holds what the heart cannot yet safely feel or process. And when the collective energetic field becomes sufficiently supportive and propitious, stored material begins to surface, often with intensity, for integration and release. This can feel like profound personal turmoil or chaos. Yet, it is invariably this very clearing that creates the necessary space for new and enduring stability to emerge. Many of you are now being invited to recalibrate your perception, to stop treating discomfort as an enemy to be avoided at all costs, and to begin treating it instead as valuable information, a messenger from your deepest self. What is surfacing within you is not necessarily novel or unprecedented. Much of it is ancient, hitherto dormant, long buried in now. Finally, ready to be met and addressed with the newfound resources, wisdom, and resilience you have cultivated. This is precisely why inner practices are of such paramount importance. Meditation, breath work, prayer, cultivating stillness, grounding in nature, gentle movement, adequate hydration, nourishing food, and supportive community. These are not dispensable amenities or luxurious indulgences. They are, at this crucial juncture, essential integration tools. You are becoming progressively capable of holding more light, more truth, and more expansive consciousness in your body must be meticulously tended as the sacred chalice, the vessel carrying this profound transformation. When you neglect the body, you inadvertently impede and complicate the awakening process. When you honor and consecrate the body, you create a stable sanctuary, an unwavering haven for truth to land and take root. One of the greatest, most epical shifts occurring is the movement from deep-seated repression to conscious embodiment. For generations, many were systematically trained to numb themselves, to distract, to avoid, to repress emotion, to pretend, and to perform roles. But such suppression comes at a profound toll. It creates inner division, chronic stress, and ultimately makes people easier to control because a numbed person reflexively seeks external stimulation and becomes dependent on external regulation to feel anything at all. Yet, as the nervous system upgrades and expands its capacity, the capacity to feel, to genuinely sense, dramatically increases. And with this heightened sensitivity comes greater discernment. With feeling comes truth perception, an unfettered ability to see things as they truly are. With feeling comes the inevitable end of easy manipulation. You may find yourself noticing that what you once tolerated, what you once accepted as normal, you can no longer tolerate. This is a vital part of the upgrade. The body becomes less willing to bear the weight of incongruence and distortion. The mind becomes less willing to reconcile cognitive dissonance and accept contradiction. The heart becomes less willing to participate in relationships or dynamics that require forsaking one's authentic self. This is not you becoming difficult or rigid, it is you becoming coherent, aligning with your deepest truth. When the inner I am presence becomes more accessible and deeply rooted, it begins to govern your life more directly and authentically. You become guided not by the loudest external voice or the most insistent societal pressure, but by the silent, unassailable inner knowing that cannot be negotiated or compromised. We also wish to speak of collective regulation. There are synergistic consciousness networks forming around your globesome formal and structured, others informal and organic where humans are praying, meditating, holding clear intentions, sharing truth, and actively fortifying one another's stability. This collective effort creates a powerful, stabilizing energetic lattice around the planeta web of light and consciousness that profoundly supports the ongoing awakening. Yet, remember that no support, no matter how benevolent, can be forced upon a closed system. The individual must open. The individual must consent. The individual must consciously choose participation. This is why inner practices are not optional for those wishing to live in unwavering transparency and clarity. They're the essential gateway to receiving and integrating the stabilizing field. When you genuinely open, you receive. When you close, you remain isolated and entrenched in your individual experience. And isolation invariably amplifies fear. Connection, conversely, amplifies regulation and coherence. As the nervous system grows stronger and more resilient, your collective capacity to tolerate unvarnished truth steadily increases. This is a fundamental prerequisite for profound revelation. When humans cannot tolerate truth, they instinctively attack, deny, project, or collapse into disarray. When humans can tolerate truth, they can consciously process, integrate, and choose new, enlightened actions. The nervous system upgrade is therefore one of the most important, albeit hidden, foundations of societal rewriting and transformation. Without it, revelations would be too destabilizing, too overwhelming. With it, revelations become potent conduits for profound healing and evolutionary progress. Yet, as this upgrade unfurls, it also precipitates an acceleration of divergence. Some individuals will actively lean into integration, embracing the discomfort and growth. Some will revert to obfuscation, clinging desperately to numbing and distraction. Some will fortify their discernment. Some will doggedly cling to illusion and entrench in denial. This is why your world can appear increasingly polarized and fragmented, not because humanity is inherently worsening, but because different nervous system states are actively selecting and inhabiting different realities. This brings us to the next movement, the divergence of timelines and the rapid sorting by resonance. What you call polarization is often merely the surface manifestation of something far deeper, a fundamental sorting by resonance. As consciousness rises and the nervous system becomes more sensitive and attuned, realities that once coexisted in a blurry, intermingled overlay begin to distinctly separate. People who once shared a basic world story or narrative begin to inhabit different perceptual domains. This can be profoundly confusing, even frightening, because you may look at a friend, a family member, a neighbor, and feel as if you're living on entirely different planets. In a sense, you are not physically, but perceptualia are selecting different timelines through vibrational resonance. We do not use the word timeline to suggest a whimsical construct or mere fantasy. We use it to describe dynamic streams of potential antipathies of experience that become increasingly probable and substantiated when certain beliefs, emotions, and choices are consistently held and embodied. As humanity becomes more participatory and proactive as co-creators of reality, these probability currents respond with expedited speed. This is precisely why divergence seems so accelerated now. In earlier eras, change took much longer to manifest and solidify. Now, the energetic field reverberates and responds faster. The heart choosing truth consistently begins to experience more truth in its reality. The mind choosing fear consistently experiences more fear. The being choosing inner union consistently experiences more coherence and harmony. The being choosing division consistently experiences more conflict and discord. This is not punishment, It is an impersonal mechanism of energetic reciprocity and feedback. Authority once played a far larger, more hegemonic role in organizing shared reality because enough humans outsource their perception and discernment. But as individual sovereignty increases, external authority definitively loses its monopoly on reality. People begin to consciously choose what they will attend to, what they will believe, and what they will embody. And as this happens, collective reality becomes less centralized and far more varied and richly multifaceted. This is why you may observe conflicting narratives, simultaneous truths, and competing interpretations of events. Your essential task is not to panic or fall into despair. Your task is to anchor deeply in coherence and unwavering discernment so you can navigate this complex landscape without being shaken by the pervasive noise and discord. We also tell you that divergence does not, by its very nature, require hostility or conflict. Many humans mistakenly believe that if realities differ, conflict must inherently follow. Yet, conflict is not inevitable. Conflict arises when one reality desperately tries to dominate or impose itself upon another. The more you cultivate profound inner union, the less you feel the need to dominate or control. You can hold your truth with integrity without forcing it upon another being. This is a hallmark of spiritual maturation. It is also a powerful collective field stabilizer. When you cease trying to convert everyone to your perspective and instead focus on embodying your authentic frequency and coherence, you become a potent beacon, a signal others can tune to when they're genuinely ready. Coherence is contagious, beloved ones, but it spreads through vibrational attunement and resonance, not through coercion or compulsion. You may wonder, will timelines separate entirely, becoming completely disparate? We tell you that in the early stages, there is considerable overlap. People continue to share workplaces, cities, and families. They inevitably brush against one another's realities, creating points of contact and friction. This overlap creates challenges, but also immense opportunity for incisive discernment, for profound compassion, and for establishing healthy, self-respecting boundaries. Over time, as resonance sorting intensifies, people will naturally gravitate towards environments, relationships, and experiences that synchronistically align with their energetic frequency. This process is not always dramatic or overtly cataclysmic. Sometimes it manifests as subtle recalibrations, changing friends, altering media diets, shifting communities, adopting new values, or reprioritizing life's objectives. Sometimes it looks like a physical, geographical relocation. Sometimes it looks like staying in the same place, but consciously living differently. The end result is ultimately the same coherence unerringly attracts coherence. This divergence is also a fundamental reason why revelation unfolds in layers. A collective undergoing such profound sorting by resonance cannot receive one unified revelation in the same way. Some will be ready to assimilate, some will deny it outright, some will weaponize it for their own agendas, some will integrate it slowly and deeply. Therefore, reality responds through multiple channels, multiple rhythms, and multiple layers of unveiling. Those ready will perceive more. Those not ready will perceive less. This may frustrate those who ardently wish for everyone to awaken at once, but it is the natural mechanics of consciousness. Awakening cannot be forced, and perception cannot be mandated. Each being must consciously choose to open. We also tell you that the most powerful, paramount way to choose your timeline, to consciously steer your experience, is to choose your inner state. Many mistakenly believe they must control external events in order to be safe and secure. Yet external events are intricately interwoven, complex, and often entirely beyond one's individual purview. What you can control is your relationship to them, your internal landscape. You can control whether you are governed by paralyzing fear or guided by an unwavering inner union. You can control whether you react impulsively or respond with discerning intention. You can control whether you numb yourself or choose to fully feel. These profound choices shape your resonance, and your resonance, in turn, shapes the reality you experience. As divergence accelerates, you may feel waves of grief, the poignant pain of perceived separation, the sadness of watching others tenaciously cling to illusions. We honor this experience deeply, yet we also gently remind you cannot live another being's awakening for them. You can only live your own with unwavering integrity. Your stability becomes a radiant lighthouse. Your coherence becomes an illuminated passage. Your presence becomes a sacrosanct haven. This is how you serve. This is how you offer your profoundest contribution. And as these probability currents increasingly organize and congeal, their distinct threshold points collective stabilization markers where a new baseline of experience becomes more fixed and less reversible, more deeply embedded in the collective field. One such significant marker is rapidly approaching in your calendrical nomenclature, and many of you already palpably sense its energetic presence. This brings us to the next movement, the threshold year you call 2026, and what it represents as an epical phase shift in collective stability. Beloved ones, we speak with reverent caution when referring to your calendar, because the deeper truth is that awakening is not governed by arbitrary demarcations of numbers on a page. Yet, timelines have their innate cadences and rhythms, and civilizations move through inevitable cycles and phases recognizable in time. The cycle you designate as 2026 functions within the collective field as a major stabilization marker and energetic nexus, where certain exposures consolidate into new norms, where certain denials become harder to maintain and justify, and where structures unable to adapt begin to dissolve with heightened velocity. This is not prophecy in the way your world often demands rigid predestination and certainty. It is, rather, a description of an unfolding energetic trajectory: preparation, exposure, integration, stabilization, and then acceleration again. What is happening now, for many, is this crucial phase of exposure. Exposure is the period where what was hidden, obscured, or denied becomes sufficiently visible enough to disturb and dislodge old agreements, old contracts, old narratives. It can feel profoundly chaotic because it fundamentally loosens individual and collective identity. A person who built their entire life on a certain foundational narrative may feel utterly destabilized when that story cracks and crumbles. A society that built its institutions on certain unquestioned assumptions may feel precariously unbalanced when those assumptions waver and dissolve. Yet, exposure is an indispensable catalyst. Without exposure, genuine integration cannot occur. Without integration, lasting stability cannot be built. And without this underlying stability, revelation cannot safely expand or be assimilated. Therefore, what you call 2026 is not merely a year when something happens, but rather a phase when humanity's collective nervous system has had sufficient gestation time to integrate certain profound realizations, enough time to fortify nascent systems of support, and enough time to acclimatize and normalize what once seemed utterly unimaginable or impossible. This is precisely why, as you approach this energetic threshold, you will observe an intensification of preparation. You will see more people actively seeking profound inner stability, communities strengthening their bonds, new leadership paradigms emerging, more exits from distortion systems and narratives of illusion, and conversely, more desperate maneuvers by old, calcified structures to retain control through the insidious lever of fear. This is the natural turbulence, the inherent upheaval that precedes genuine stabilization. We tell you that systems fundamentally misaligned with higher truth and universal law will dissolve more rapidly as the threshold nears, because the ascending energetic field will simply no longer sustain them. This does not imply that everything collapses at once in a cataclysmic event. It means, rather, that what is fundamentally misaligned and out of coherence begins to fail more visibly, more undeniably. When a structure is built entirely on manipulation, it requires perpetual artifice and ongoing manipulation to survive. When the population becomes more discerning and aware, manipulation becomes far less effective. Thus, the structure weakens, its foundations erode. This is why you may observe institutional credibility waning across various sectors, not because nothing is real or trustworthy, but because the collective is increasingly demanding demonstrable evidence and substance over superficial rhetoric and empty promises. People will no longer be satisfied with abstract philosophy or theoretical constructs. They will demand lived truth, transparent authenticity, concrete accountability, and words that unequivocally match actions. The threshold also profoundly fosters cooperative models of interaction and governance. As fear loosens its grip and discernment grows, genuine collaboration becomes a more natural, innate inclination. Many of you are utterly exhausted by a sense of perpetual antagonism and conflict as a primary identity. Many of you are now truly ready for innovative resolutions and sustainable solutions. Many of you are ready for a world where resources are stewarded with conscious intention and shared intelligently, where communities are resilient and self-sufficient, and where truth is not obscured by gatekeepers or permission structures. These cooperative models already exist in nascent iterations in seed form. The threshold phase is when these seeds become vibrant seedlings visible enough to be recognized and nurtured, strong enough to withstand initial challenges and flourish. In the broader canvas of revelation and cosmic reality, the threshold phase profoundly supports normalization. Normalization is indispensable. A civilization cannot assimilate extraterrestrial engagement or cosmic contact through mere sensationalism or spectacle alone. It integrates through familiarity, through gradual acclimation, through repeated subtle yet persistent validations, through a heightened cultural readiness, and through robust emotional regulation. This is why contact increases in ways that may seem gentle, almost understated, to those desiring overt theatrics and drama through inner experiences, through meaningful synchronicities, through vivid dreams, through silent epiphanies, and through subtle yet profound paradigm shifts in worldview. It is not always a massive ship in the sky. Sometimes it is a profound thought arriving like a forgotten memory. Sometimes it is compassion widening the heart to encompass all beings. Sometimes it is a sudden, undeniable recognition that you are not and never were alone in the universe. We reaffirm again, the threshold is inner before it is external. The calendrical year marker does not create the change, rather, it reflects and catalyzes it. If you desire the most graceful, harmonious experience of what approaches, diligently build your inner stability now. Consciously cultivate nervous system regulation. Meticulously practice inner union. Choose unwavering discernment in all things. Release compulsive fear, consumption, and disengage from its narratives. Actively strengthen your community bonds. Live with vibrational coherence. These profound choices not only enhance and enrich your personal life, immeasurably, they also contribute powerfully to the collective energetic field, determining what can be safely and gracefully revealed to all. Each regulated human increases the planet's collective truth tolerance. Each coherent heart makes revelation more viable and less destabilizing, hastening the safe unveiling. And as this threshold approaches, something else fundamentally shifts in the pervasive interplay between your civilization and those who have hitherto observed you from a distance. Observation naturally becomes engagement, not because you're being rescued or saved by an external force, but because you're proactively becoming capable of meeting this engagement as conscious, sovereign participants. This brings us to the next movement, the inherent shift from distant observation to resonance-based contact. For many of you, the notion that life exists beyond your planet is not a new concept. What is new, however, is humanity's unprecedented capacity and growing readiness to relate to that expansive reality without succumbing to paralyzing dread, unquestioning adoration, or belligerence. There's a profound distinction between superficial curiosity and deep maturity. Curiosity, in its basic form, asks, "Are we alone?" Maturity, however, asks a far more profound and self-reflective question: who are we if we are not alone? And how should we live? How should we ethically conduct ourselves in conscious relation to a larger, infinitely diverse cosmos? Your species is now beginning to earnestly ask the mature question. This is precisely why the posture of distant observation shifts to active engagement. This engagement does not, as your narratives frequently portray, signify intervention. It does not mean a benevolent deliverer descending to fix what you have not yet chosen to heal within yourselves. It does not mean an external authority usurping your sacred inner sovereignty. True engagement from higher wisdom honors the fundamental principle of non-interference sebecause non-interference is, at its core, an act of profound respect. It is the deep understanding that a civilization must develop its own intrinsic fortitude, its own incisive discernment, its own unwavering ethical compass, and its own vibrational congruence. Without this organic development, contact inevitably perpetuates dependency. Dependency then, just as inevitably, leads to manipulation. And manipulation is precisely what you are being invited to transcend and emancipate yourselves from. Therefore, engagement in its truest form is profoundly resonance-based, a vibrational alignment rather than a forced interaction. It flourishes and expands precisely where fear dissipates and recedes, intensifying where discernment sharpens and clarity emerges, and deepening immeasurably where a profound state of inner union renders the human nervous system stable and resilient enough to meet the vast unknown without instinctively converting it into a perceived threat. This fundamental principle explains why many of the initial layers of authentic engagement often manifest as subtle, gentle promptings, easily overlooked by a mind seeking grand theatrics. Consider a dream that feels exceptionally vivid and infused with boundless affection, carrying a message of deep comfort, or a meditative state where you perceive a profound, comforting presence, a sense of companionship beyond the physical. Perhaps a serendipitous synchronicity offers undeniable confirmation that you are indeed guided and supported. An intuitive knowing may arrive fully formed, a sudden download of insight that requires no logical processing, or an unexpected wellspring of peace might sustain you through intense chaos, providing unwavering solace amidst turmoil. These profound experiences are not mere fleeting fantasies or products of wishful thinking. They are, in fact, crucial acclamations. They represent sophisticated ways your consciousness gracefully familiarizes itself with a larger, more expansive reality, subtly preparing your awareness before your analytical mind ever has the chance to demand empirical proof. We also place paramount emphasis on the sacred principle of consent. Consent is inherently inviolable and sacred. Just as no genuine spiritual awakening can ever be compelled or forced upon an individual, so too can no true and authentic contact be imposed. Your world has endured far too much coercion, manipulation, and forced subjugation throughout its history to possibly find its healing path through yet further acts of imposition. Therefore, authentic engagement invariably honors the sanctity of individual choice. It gracefully extends itself to those who willingly open their hearts and minds, respectfully refraining from disturbing those who are not yet prepared, and certainly never penalizing those who remain in a state of slumber or unawareness. It simply does not impose what they are currently unable to hold or integrate. This is precisely why you will hear countless individuals describe profound contact experiences, while many others simultaneously deny their very existence. These seemingly contradictory accounts can, in fact, both hold truth within the diverse and distinct resonant currents of individual perception and readiness. As the scope of collective engagement broadens and deepens, so too does humanity's inherent role transform profoundly. You are not destined to remain forever as children in a vast cosmic classroom, passively observing. You are gracefully transitioning into active, emergent participants within an expansive, interconnected community of consciousness. True participation, therefore, does not commence with technological advancement or external innovations. Rather, its genesis lies firmly in the cultivation of profound ethics, the unwavering assertion of individual sovereignty, and a steadfast willingness to embody a way of life entirely free from any impulse toward domination or control. For any civilization still driven by the archaic imperative of domination will inevitably misinterpret genuine contact as an opportunity for conquest, and such an aggressive posture inherently destabilizes the entire energetic field of interaction, making true connection impossible. Therefore, the invitation from the cosmos resonates with crystal clarity: cultivate a sufficient state of internal coherence and integrity to encounter the vast cosmos as true kin, not as fear-driven predators, nor as submissive worshippers, nor as helpless victims, but as equal, valued members of a grand cosmic family. We earnestly ask you to deeply recall and integrate the fundamental truth that inner contact invariably precedes outer manifestation. This is an immutable law of resonance, a universal principle at play. When the specific frequency of a connection becomes intimately familiar and integrated within your inner being, its external form or manifestation will then appear far less jarring, shocking, or unexpected when encountered in your outer reality. Indeed, countless individuals are already diligently cultivating this profound inner familiarity, often without fully realizing the immense significance of their actions, simply by consistently choosing to live in alignment with truth, by dedicatedly practicing moments of profound stillness, by consciously regulating and transforming fear, by actively releasing ingrained prejudices, and by gently softening the pervasive impulse to control. These are not merely superficial self-help actions designed for personal comfort. They are, In fact, crucial cosmic readiness actions of immense import. They meticulously prepare the human psyche, expanding its capacity to securely and gracefully embrace a significantly wider and more expansive reality. And as the realm of collective engagement continues its profound expansion, truth will inevitably continue to emerge and surface through an array of diverse and interconnected channels spanning cultural narratives, rigorous scientific discoveries, profound personal experiences, and unerring intuitive insights, precisely because reality itself is undergoing a magnificent reorganization, steadily aligning itself toward an overarching state of profound wholeness and integration. This epoch is not a mere random segment of time. It is, rather, a profound era of maturation and accelerated growth for humanity. The monumental shift from a posture of distant, detached observation to one of active, intimate engagement is not simply bestowed upon you as a gift. Instead, it is actively met by your awakening consciousness, authentically responded to by your evolving spirit, and wholeheartedly invited forth by the depth of your collective and individual readiness. This is precisely why we consistently emphasize the critical importance of inner union, the cultivation of profound nervous system stability, the sharpening of clear discernment, and the unwavering assertion of personal sovereignty. These are not merely secondary or tangential topics. They are, in fact, the absolutely foundational pillars upon which safe, authentic revelation and stable, meaningful contact can be built. And as this essential foundation continuously strengthens and solidifies, you will witness the subsequent layers of this grand unfolding accelerate with remarkable rapidity, including the profound decentralization of what is perceived as truth, the beautiful merging of individual spiritual awakening with broader cosmic revelation, and the inspired emergence of novel leadership archetypes. Individuals inherently capable of gracefully carrying humanity through the next phase of its evolution with unwavering integrity and wisdom. If you wish, we will continue now to the next movement, exploring in greater detail how truth emerges through multiple interconnected channels and how spiritual awakening and cosmic revelation are ultimately revealed as one unified, interconnected event within your ongoing evolution. What you are collectively experiencing is emphatically not the imposed end of an era dictated by external forces, but rather the organic, inevitable conclusion of a long, profound season of forgetting as universal consciousness majestically reclaims its rightful, central place at the very core of human experience and perception. The pivotal nexus you have now profoundly entered, the continuous surfacing of long-hidden truths, the gentle yet undeniably persistent approach of transformative revelation, and even the silent, profound celestial markers you observe gracing your skies. All these diverse phenomena are interconnected reflections of the very same fundamental inner movement unfolding within humanity, the collective learning to remain steadfastly present with profound truth without succumbing to collapse, to meet the full spectrum of reality without surrendering inherent sovereignty, and to consciously choose authentic coherence over the illusion of control. Rest assured, nothing is being forcefully imposed upon you. Nothing is arriving prematurely or out of season, disrupting a natural order. Instead, you're quite precisely meeting yourselves at the exact, divinely orchestrated point where you have, through your own growth and evolution, finally become fully able to do so. As you bravely continue your journey forward, please remember this profound truth that authentic awakening unfolds not through frantic urgency or hurried timelines, but through profound stability, not through external spectacle or dramatic displays, but through deep, holistic integration, and certainly not through paralyzing fear, but through the simple, unwavering willingness to remain intimately connected to the divine, luminous presence that resides eternally within you. We walk intimately beside you throughout this magnificent unfolding, deeply honoring your unique pace, your immense courage, and the ever-expanding clarity that illuminates your path. We urge you to trust implicitly what you authentically feel within your being. Trust what genuinely stabilizes and grounds you. Trust the profound, silent knowing that gracefully arises when a cacophony of external noise gently fades away. We remain with you always perpetually in service to your highest good and to your magnificent sovereign becoming. We extend our boundless love. We profoundly honor your journey, and we express our deepest gratitude for your unwavering commitment to holding the light. We regard you as our cherished galactic brothers and sisters, co-creators in this grand cosmic tapestry. We are the Galactic Federation. It is crucial to understand that much of this urgent terminology does not originate from authentic cosmic transmission, but rather from humanity's deeply ingrained tendency to frame profound transformation through the lens of perceived urgency and immediate deadlines. While a sense of urgency can, at times, serve to motivate action, it equally possesses the potential to destabilize and induce anxiety. We wish to affirm that the Galactic Federation does not, and has never, operated through methods of fear-based urgency. Our operations are consistently guided by principles of profound alignment and impeccable timing. Moreover, this impeccable timing is intrinsically governed by the collective nervous system and energetic coherence of a civilization. A species is only capable of truly revealing and integrating profound truths about itself at the precise speed and pace at which it can maintain its collective coherence and inner stability. Therefore, December 19th is emphatically not a rigid deadline to be feared or anxiously awaited. Instead, it serves as a powerful convergence point to a specific moment when a collective energetic field briefly stabilizes and becomes sufficiently coherent to allow for deeper, more profound recognition and integration of emerging truths. Understood in this expansive context, the December 19th resonance window naturally, organically, and fittingly belongs to the gracious closing of this first foundational phase of our current transmission. This is because it powerfully reinforces the central, undeniable truth of the nexus that humanity has now decisively crossed a significant threshold where long-hidden realities and this pervasive agreement, meticulously forged within the confines of the mind through years of societal and personal conditioning, finds its profound endorsement in the deepest chambers of the heart, signed with the indelible ink of an inherent human longing to belong, to be accepted, to find a place within the existing order. Yet, a monumental shift is now unfolding. This very foundational agreement is reaching its inevitable expiration not as a result of any external decree or persuasive argument from another entity, but because the surging tide of collective consciousness, having evolved and expanded, is unequivocally refusing to bear the immense, hidden costs of its continued maintenance. The burden of sustaining such a system has simply become too heavy, too restrictive for the burgeoning awareness. One might initially perceive the escalating pressures engulfing your world as originating from readily identifiable external sources, the relentless campaigns of dedicated activists, the investigative probes of intrepid journalists, the courageous disclosures of whistleblowers, the intricate dynamics of competing global powers, or the disruptive accelerations of technological shifts. While these manifestations are certainly palpable and play their respective roles, they remain, at their core, mere surface expressions, visible ripples on the vast ocean of deeper causal forces. The more profound, underlying truth, the undeniable wellspring of this systemic pressure, emanates directly from consciousness itself, an intrinsic, self-regulating force seeking alignment and truth within its own ever-expanding field. When the expansive, all-encompassing energy of consciousness attempts to rest upon or organize itself around fundamental distortion, an inherent instability is inevitably introduced into the very fabric of that distortion. Such an incongruent foundation cannot endure indefinitely. It reaches a critical juncture where it faces an existential choice. It must either undergo profound transformation, aligning itself with truth, or it will inevitably intensify, becoming more rigid and fervent in a desperate, final attempt to preserve its existence and avoid dissolution. This critical dynamic precisely explains why, during periods such as these, you are increasingly observing contradictions not just surfacing, but amplifying, becoming jarringly louder and more apparent. Why propaganda, once subtle, now grows more desperate, employing increasingly overt and manipulative tactics, and why established narratives are pushed to their most extreme, polarized expressions, as if battling for their very survival in the court of public perception. It is imperative to understand that these escalating manifestations are not indicators that some insidious darkness is gaining an upper hand or achieving victory. Quite the contrary. They are unmistakable signs that it is being relentlessly cornered, its hidden recesses illuminated by an ever-increasing, inescapable visibility. A deliberate falsehood, a lie, truly despises nothing more profoundly than the pure, unyielding penetration of sunlight. This is not because the light actively assaults or fights against the lie, but rather because the sheer presence of illumination renders the lie utterly superfluous, dissolving its purpose and power. Once the unvarnished truth is perceived and embraced, the intricate, fabricated construct of a lie is immediately rendered obsolete. It is simply no longer required, or even capable, of organizing or dictating your collective reality. We now convey to you this profound understanding. This fundamental dynamic is precisely why every concealed aspect, every hidden facet of existence is progressively coming into the light. It extends far beyond the mere external exposure of previously guarded secrets. It fundamentally signifies that the very architecture of the individual and collective psyche can no longer sustain the immense energetic cost of keeping such truths deeply repressed. Consequently, countless individuals who have navigated their lives carrying the heavy burdens of buried trauma, consciously suppressing their innate intuition, locking away profound grief, silencing their unspoken truths, and actively denying inconvenient memories, are now experiencing an undeniable phenomenon. These deeply submerged elements are not gently emerging, but powerfully surging to the surface, presenting themselves with an insistent, undeniable force, urgently demanding conscious acknowledgement, integration, and resolution. This identical, inexorable process is manifesting with equal potency on a collective scale. A civilization, much like an individual, cannot genuinely ascend into a state of enlightened maturity and true integration while simultaneously keeping its accumulated shadow, its unacknowledged flaws, historical injustices, and unexamined aspects securely locked away in the metaphorical basement of its collective unconscious. Now, the heavy, long-bolted door of this societal basement is visibly creaking open, and what is inevitably emerging from its depths may indeed prove to be profoundly uncomfortable, intellectually confusing, intensely emotionally charged, and undeniably messy at various junctures. However, it is paramount to grasp that this surfacing is occurring not for the perpetuation of endless conflict or the deepening of division, but solely for the profound purpose of collective healing and ultimate integration. In these tumultuous times, it is understandable that many among you instinctively interpret such widespread exposure to revelation of long-hidden realities primarily as scandalous events, harbingers of chaos, or immediate indicators of imminent danger. Yet a more expansive perspective reveals that exposure, despite its initial unsettling impact, is profoundly and consistently the crucial first stage, the indispensable prerequisite for any genuine process of correction and rectification. Consider this fundamental truth: that which remains unseen, deliberately obscured from conscious awareness, fundamentally cannot undergo true healing. Likewise, that which cannot be openly admitted, confronted, and acknowledged can never be genuinely transformed or transcended. The act of bringing to light is, therefore, the essential initiation of repair. The antiquated structures of secrecy, which have for so long dictated much of your collective experience, were built upon and meticulously maintained by a foundational, manipulative premise: the insidious idea that humanity was inherently powerless, that you collectively lacked the intrinsic capacity to withstand or process the unvarnished truth, and therefore that you desperately required a carefully curated, meticulously managed reality to preserve any semblance of stability. However, a profound shift is occurring within the human collective. Your innate capacity for stability, your resilience, and your inner fortitude are unequivocally increasing. As this inner strength flourishes, the entire fabricated logic that once justified and underpinned concealment utterly collapses, rendered invalid and unsustainable by the evolving consciousness. This inherent collapse of the old logic is precisely why you are now witnessing increasingly evident fractures and fissures, manifesting not only within established institutions that have long upheld these systems, but also, and perhaps more profoundly, within the very individuals who have dedicated significant portions of their lives to serving and maintaining those institutions. When the overarching energetic field of consciousness undergoes such a significant and undeniable shift, the deeply ingrained inner alignment, the personal coherence, and moral compass of those operating within established control structures is inevitably subjected to an intense and unprecedented testing. Their foundational beliefs and loyalties are brought into sharp relief against a rapidly changing backdrop. In response to this existential challenge, diverse reactions are emerging. Some individuals, overwhelmed by fear or deeply entrenched in established paradigms, will instinctively cling even more tightly and rigidly to their old loyalties, desperately resisting the inevitable currents of change. Others, unable to reconcile the internal dissonance, will experience profound internal breaks, their long-held belief systems shattering under the strain. Many will actively begin to seek exits, physically or psychologically withdrawing from systems that no longer resonate. Still others will embark upon a sincere quest for redemption, seeking to reconcile their past actions with an awakening conscience. All of these varied responses are symptomatic manifestations of an intense spiritual and psychological pressurization, undeniable inner force of a rapidly changing collective energetic field exerting immense pressure against deeply ingrained, outdated identities, and established ways of being. We also wish to further clarify an essential aspect of this unfolding process. The surfacing of the hidden is by no means merely an external phenomenon, confined to global events or societal revelations. A significant and indeed profound portion of what is now rapidly surfacing resides directly within your own individual inner world, within the very landscape of your personal consciousness. Consequently, you are each being called upon, with increasing urgency, to embark upon a path of radical honesty with yourselves. This involves diligently noticing and consciously observing precisely where you have permitted yourselves to become separated from your inherent, vital source connection, where you have mistakenly pursued fleeting joy through the accumulation of external possessions and transient achievements rather than cultivating the profound, enduring wellspring of inner union, and where you have attempted to grasp a fragile peace through strategies of avoidance and distraction instead of embracing the transformative power of authentic presence. Understand, beloved ones, that this profound process of self-inquiry is not delivered as a form of judgment or condemnation. Rather, it is offered as an extraordinary opportunity for unparalleled liberation. For when you achieve conscious, sustained connection to your intrinsic source, when you genuinely feel and embody the profound inner I am presence as a vibrant, living, undeniable reality within your very core, then you naturally begin to draw from an inexhaustible, infinitely deeper supply of wisdom, strength, and sustenance. In this state of authentic connection, you discover you no longer require the intricate web of deception to navigate or survive in the world. You no longer depend on the numbing comfort of denial to cope with challenging realities, and you're finally freed from the heavy, restrictive shackles of the old sleep, the collective unconsciousness that once governed so much of human experience. Consider the profound simplicity of a branch that remains consciously, organically connected to its life-giving vine. Such a branch experiences no anxiety or panic concerning its vital supply of nutrients and energy. It does not frantically rush or strive. Instead, it simply receives, absorbing all that is needed, and in doing so, it effortlessly and naturally bears its intended fruit in due season. This elegant, self-regulating mechanism perfectly illustrates the fundamental inner mechanics and profound spiritual principles that underpin and drive all genuine external transformation, demonstrating how outward changes are always a reflection of an internal state of connection and flow. As these previously hidden and covert structures continue to experience a profound pressurization and internal instability, you will also simultaneously observe a remarkable acceleration in the distribution of information, flowing with increasing rapidity through a myriad of decentralized and often unofficial channels. No single gatekeeper, no solitary authority, no centralized entity possesses the capacity or power to effectively contain this burgeoning tide of emerging truth. Instead, veracity subtly yet powerfully leaks through unforeseen cracks in once impenetrable walls. It organically surfaces through the evocative expressions of art, through candid, unscripted conversations, through unexpected and often anonymous leaks of data, through profound cultural shifts in perception, through groundbreaking scientific discoveries, and most significantly, through the undeniable, lived experiences that individuals can no longer truthfully deny or ignore. This very multiplicity and redundancy of communication channels is, in itself, an integral and intentional part of the new architectural design for humanity's Awakening system designed to foster unparalleled resilience through decentralization and ensure unwavering stability through broad, expansive distribution. And as this sustained and escalating pressurization relentlessly continues its transformative work, it inevitably propels the collective toward that profound phenomenon you commonly refer to as revelation. Yet, it is crucial to understand that this is not manifesting as a single, dramatic, grand proclamation or a singular, cataclysmic event. Rather, it unfolds as a carefully orchestrated sequence of incremental openings, each precisely paced and calibrated by the collective's increasing readiness to receive, by its capacity for deep integration, and by the evolving resilience of the human nervous system to remain fully present with and metabolize the unvarnished reality that is being unveiled. We speak of the process of revelation with a profound sense of calm and unwavering certainty, precisely because revelation, in its truest essence, is not a difficult battle to be fiercely won through struggle and conflict. Instead, it is an entirely natural and inherent consequence of an awakening consciousness. Consider the simple yet profound analogy when a room is shrouded in darkness. It becomes effortlessly possible to conceal a multitude of objects and to make many clandestine movements. However, the moment the lights are simply activated and flood the space, that same possibility for concealment utterly vanishes not because the light is actively fighting against the darkness or attacking the hidden objects, but solely because the fundamental conditions of the environment have been irrevocably altered. The capacity for hiding dissolves with the mere presence of illumination. In this powerful analogy, consciousness itself embodies that very light, an ever-expanding illumination. And humanity's collective consciousness is progressively turning on, not as a sudden, overwhelming flash that might overwhelm fragile systems, but rather in carefully calibrated degrees and gentle increments. This gradual unfolding is essential and intentional, for the complex and intricate human system is designed to integrate such profound energetic light and expanded awareness incrementally, layer by layer, allowing for adaptation and coherence without collapse. It is vital to remember that you are not merely mechanical constructs, engineered for instant, abrupt upgrades or immediate overhauls. On the contrary, you are intricate, sentient living beings, and as such, living beings by their very nature are designed to unfold, to evolve, and to reveal their deepest potential organically over time, at a pace that honors their inherent complexity and growth process. Revelation, in the popular imagination, is frequently envisioned primarily as a dramatic, singular political event, perhaps a sweeping public declaration, a momentous confession, the official release of long classified documents, or an abrupt and dramatic shift in the prevailing official narrative. While these elements are indeed potential aspects of the unfolding process, and some have already occurred in various partial forms, it is crucial to recognize that revelation, in its most profound and transformative meaning, is fundamentally energetic. It is a vibrational shift, a change in the very frequency of reality. It signifies that pivotal moment when an entire collective, an entire societal consciousness can no longer sustain the exhausting pretense of ignorance or denial. More precisely, it is the sacred juncture when a sufficient number of individuals within that collective have cultivated the inner resilience and fortitude to consciously hold, integrate, and process challenging truths without immediately collapsing into overwhelming fear, panic, or reactive judgment. It is at this critical threshold that truth, once deemed too dangerous or destabilizing, finally becomes socially viable, capable of being openly discussed, acknowledged, and integrated into the collective fabric without inciting widespread collapse. The essential, unassailable fact remains that truth, in its ultimate, pure form, has always existed, an eternal constant woven into the fabric of creation. Therefore, the profound question facing humanity is not whether truth itself possesses objective existence, for its reality is self-evident. Instead, the pertinent and pressing question is whether it can be adequately received by the human mind and heart, thoroughly metabolized and integrated into the individual and collective psyche, and ultimately, truly lived as an embodied reality. This is precisely why the intricate human nervous system assumes such a central and pivotal role in this accelerated phase of planetary evolution. Many of you have undoubtedly experienced a palpable sense that your physical bodies have been behaving differently of late registering as more sensitive to stimuli, more reactive to subtle energies, and profoundly more awake and attuned to higher frequencies. While the pressures of modern life certainly contribute to stress, and stress undeniably plays its part, it is crucial to understand that these physical sensations are not merely symptomatic of stress alone, they're also profound physiological adaptations, preparing your intricate biological systems for higher vibrational realities. Indeed, the human nervous system is undergoing an unprecedented evolutionary upgrade, actively learning and expanding its capacity to consciously hold and process increasingly larger, more expansive realities. It is learning to embrace and integrate profound complexity, to navigate the inherent tensions of paradox, and to fluidly adapt to relentless transformation without succumbing to overwhelm. Conversely, when the nervous system, in its current state, lacks the developed capacity to effectively hold and metabolize an unvarnished truth, it instinctively perceives that truth as an existential threat. It misinterprets revelation as a cause for debilitating panic, and it transmutes the natural currents of change into perceived chaos, struggling to find coherence amidst the unfolding. Consequently, the magnificent unfolding of revelation is meticulously paced, deliberately delivered layer by layer, each successive revelation carefully designed to prepare and fortify the collective energetic field for the subsequent deeper opening. You, in your human desire for dramatic and immediate shifts, might ardently wish for a more sudden, cataclysmic revelation. However, we urge you to pause and thoughtfully consider the profound repercussions such an abrupt unveiling would unleash upon your current world. Reflect upon how countless individuals would react not with open curiosity or profound insight, but with overwhelming, unmanageable fear. Furthermore, contemplate with what alarming speed and ruthless efficiency the forces of distortion would inevitably attempt to weaponize such a dramatic revelation, twisting its truths to serve divisive agendas and sow even greater discord. Therefore, what appears to be a gradual or slow unfolding of revelation is not, by any means, an act of cowardice or hesitancy. Rather, is frequently a profoundly intelligent and compassionate strategy for collective stabilization. This understanding also underscores precisely why consent, at every level of being, matters so deeply in this evolutionary process. No genuine awakening, no authentic expansion of consciousness can ever be forcefully imposed upon an unwilling spirit. Similarly, no profound truth can be truly integrated or embodied against the sovereign will of the being who is meant to receive. Its absorption requires openness and acceptance. Indeed, even within the vast tapestry of your own revered spiritual lineages and ancient wisdom teachings, this fundamental principle has been consistently observed and articulated. The individual who genuinely receives benevolent help or guidance is invariably the one who consciously and willingly opens their heart and mind to its reception. The one who experiences true, lasting healing is inherently the one who holds a deep, unwavering belief that such healing is not only desirable, but genuinely possible for them. And the one who undergoes profound, transformative change is always the one who bravely surrenders the tenacious grip of their old, limiting identity, making space for the new. Blessings, no matter how profound or powerful, simply cannot be inflicted upon a system that remains stubbornly closed, unwilling to receive or adapt. And so, revelation, in its subtle yet powerful progression, gracefully moves through these prepared openings through individual humans who have cultivated sufficient inner fortitude, through coherent groups that embody collective resilience, and through cultures that have developed enough inner stability and energetic integrity to consciously meet and integrate its unfolding impact. As these receptive openings progressively increase in number and scope, the reach of revelation naturally expands and intensifies. It manifests as an accelerating, flowing wave, building momentum and breadth, rather than a single destructive explosion that would shatter rather than transform. We now invite you to recognize and deeply consider a crucial and often subtle distinction. There is mere information, and then there is profound realization. Information, in its raw form, can certainly be transmitted and received without necessarily inducing any significant or lasting transformation in the recipient. However, authentic realization is an entirely different phenomenon. It inherently alters the very fabric of the receiver's being, integrating new truths at a cellular and conscious level. Indeed, much of what humanity has historically lacked, and what has kept many cycles repeating, has not been a dearth of data or facts, but rather a profound absence of genuine realization that embodied visceral knowing that permeates every aspect of one's existence and irrevocably alters the course and quality of life. The very design of this emerging evolutionary phase is precisely engineered to foster and produce deep realization, to ignite embodied understanding, rather than simply delivering a barrage of facts or intellectual data. This intrinsic design is precisely why revelations, when they occur, can often be accompanied by significant emotional agitation, discomfort, and even turmoil, because your entire inner system, mind, body, and spirit is actively undergoing a profound process of integration. And integration, by its very nature, is not always a comfortable or placid experience. You may find yourselves grieving deeply for what you previously did not know or understand, experiencing waves of righteous rage at the sheer magnitude of what was deliberately hidden, feeling profoundly betrayed by trusted sources, or grappling with intense confusion as your previous models of reality are challenged. It is vital to understand that these powerful and often unsettling reactions are not indications that you are failing or somehow mishandling the process. Quite the contrary. They are unmistakable and healthy signs that you're actively processing, integrating, and metabolizing complex truths. And this active, often tumultuous, processing of truth is, in fact, the indispensable pathway to achieving enduring inner stability and collective coherence. Within the broader, majestic frame of your planetary evolution, the process of revelation is inextricably tied to the fundamental collapse of governance systems that have historically operated through the insidious manipulation of fear. A population kept perpetually frightened, anxious, and disoriented is, regrettably, a population that can be managed and controlled with relative ease. Conversely, a population that is increasingly regulated by its own inner wisdom, deeply discerning of truth, and collectively aware simply cannot be controlled or manipulated by the same outdated tactics. As more and more individuals consciously cultivate and diligently learn to maintain deep inner contact of profound, authentic communion with their inherent source, connection their pervasive fear, which once governed so much of their lives, naturally and unequivocally diminishes. They progressively become less dependent upon external authorities or established institutions to provide them with a sense of certainty or direction. They shed their reliance on externally imposed narratives to define their identity or validate their worth, and they detach from systems that deceptively promise security while simultaneously extracting their innate sovereignty and self-determination. This blossoming inner union is absolutely not a form of escapism or withdrawal from the world. On the contrary, it is the bedrock, the unshakable foundation of true, enduring freedom and self-mastery. When you possess the profound capacity to consciously withdraw inwardly into the sanctuary of your own being and there discover an unwavering, intrinsic stability, then no external circumstance, no matter how turbulent or challenging, can ever fully steal your profound inner peace. This cultivated stability then transforms into an unshakable anchor, grounding you firmly and allowing you to witness even the most unsettling truths of reality without collapsing into despair, reactivity, or overwhelm. Therefore, the true scope of revelation extends beyond merely what information will be unveiled. It is equally defined by what humanity, individually and collectively, has cultivated the inner capacity to truly hold, integrate, and understand. The more diligently you cultivate this profound inner union, this unshakable connection to Source, the more inherently capable you become of meeting reality precisely as it is, without illusion, denial, or distortion. And when a sufficient number of humans collectively attain this level of inner stability and conscious awareness, the entire collective field of human consciousness stabilizes at an entirely new baseline, a higher energetic frequency, where the practice of concealment and the perpetuation of hidden agendas become increasingly, perhaps even utterly, impossible to maintain. In such an evolved collective field, the antiquated and manipulative strategy of keep them afraid and distracted rapidly loses its efficacy and its coercive power. This old tactic simply cannot operate efficiently in an environment where individuals possess the innate capacity to consciously pause, to take a regulating breath, to exercise genuine discernment, and to truly see beyond the immediate surface, perceiving deeper truths and motivations. This profound interconnectedness is precisely why the entire revelation process is inextricably intertwined with the process of spiritual maturation and evolutionary growth. It is not a separate or distinct phenomenon, rather. It represents a single, unified movement of consciousness, merely observed and understood from various complementary angles and perspectives. As revelation continues its inexorable unfolding, its transformative influence will inevitably spread across all sectors and strata of society, permeating every aspect of human organization. This is because the very foundation of society itself is constructed upon the deeply ingrained assumptions and collective beliefs that its people are willing and able to tolerate and uphold. Consequently, when these foundational assumptions undergo a profound and widespread shift, the entire edifice of existing systems and structures must inevitably follow suit, adapting or dissolving. This brings us directly to the subsequent, monumental movement, the profound and comprehensive rewriting of civilization itself, initiated not from external dictates or as a carefully orchestrated project by a select few leaders, but rather as the organic, unstoppable effect of millions upon millions of individuals consciously choosing to prioritize and embody inner truth over the seductive yet ultimately empty allure of external illusion. Your intricate civilization is not, in its most fundamental essence, primarily composed of the tangible elements you observe, such as imposing buildings, codified laws, fluctuating currencies, advanced technologies, or established institutions. These are merely its outer garments, its visible superstructure. At its very core, your civilization is meticulously constructed from a complex web of collective agreements, profound, often unspoken, understandings about what constitutes reality, what possesses true value, what is deemed possible, what behaviors are permitted, what transgressions are punished, and what achievements are justly rewarded. These deeply ingrained agreements reside not in official documents alone, but profoundly within the very fabric of the collective nervous system and shared psyche of humanity. And as this collective psyche undergoes such a dramatic and transformative shift, the outdated outer garments of civilization, its visible structures and systems simply cannot, and indeed will not, remain unchanged. They must inevitably adapt to the new inner reality. This fundamental shift is precisely why you are now observing long-established institutions begin to waver and show profound signs of instability, not merely due to external pressures, but because their old, fear-based models of operation can no longer genuinely inspire or sustain the collective. A pervasive, often subconscious, sense of unease ripples through the populace, a strange, undeniable feeling that this cannot continue, even when many individuals cannot yet fully articulate or conceptualize what precisely must arise to replace the dissolving paradigms. Be assured the profound rewriting of civilization is not merely a distant possibility, it is actively underway, unfolding in countless subtle and overt ways around you. You may already be noticing that numerous attempts to reform old systems, to mend their cracks with superficial adjustments, no longer yield the desired results as they might have in the past. This is because reform, in its typical application, is often little more than the act of patching an antiquated structure with the very same outdated assumptions and limited beliefs that created its initial flaws. However, the current evolutionary imperative is demanding something far more profound, something fundamentally deeper. It calls for a complete resonance shift, an intrinsic recalibration of the very vibrational frequency upon which new systems are built. A system meticulously constructed upon the corrosive energy of fear can never be truly made coherent or genuinely functional by the mere addition of a clever new slogan or a superficial public relations campaign. Similarly, a structure fundamentally built upon layers of intricate secrecy and hidden agendas cannot miraculously become trustworthy or transparent simply by hiring a new, charismatic spokesperson. Nor can a culture deeply ingrained with the limiting belief in scarcity and perpetual competition ever truly attain peace or abundance by the empty gesture of printing new promises on paper. The profound truth is that the very foundation must undergo a radical transformation. And that foundation, as we have emphasized, is consciousness itself, and consciousness, undeniably, is changing at an unprecedented pace. We recognize that some among you carry within your hearts a noble, fervent desire to actively save the world, to swiftly intervene and rectify all perceived ills. We deeply honor the profound love and altruistic impulse that lies at the core of such a yearning. Yet, we tell you gently, with profound wisdom, the emergent new world, the civilization of coherence, is not being born from frantic, reactive rescue missions or desperate attempts to fix external problems through struggle. Rather, it is organically and powerfully manifesting from the subtle yet irresistible force of inner peace, becoming profoundly contagious, radiating outwards from awakened individuals into the collective. When a single being, through conscious effort and sincere intention, discovers and cultivates true inner union, that profound, unwavering contact with their inherent inner source connection, they naturally, effortlessly, and powerfully begin to radiate an undeniable coherence, a harmonious vibrational frequency that impacts everything around them. Such individuals become intrinsically stable, remarkably clear in their perception, and anchored in their truth. Others instinctively feel this resonant coherence. They're not drawn by eloquent words, persuasive arguments, or elaborate doctrines, but rather by the subtle yet potent magnetic force of frequency, by the undeniable vibration of their authentic presence. This profound understanding reveals precisely why the most potent and transformative contributions to humanity's evolution are often rendered in silence, without fanfare or overt declarations. Consider the quiet power of a person who has cultivated the profound ability to remain non-reactive and centered in the face of intense provocation, a person who resolutely refuses to demonize or vilify those with differing views, a person who genuinely listens with an open heart and mind, seeking understanding rather than rebuttal, a person who courageously holds and embodies unvarnished truth without needing a public spectacle or dramatic validation. This, beloved ones, is genuine demonstration. This is authentic embodiment. And embodiment, the living expression of truth, is quickly becoming the true, universal language of the emerging, higher vibrational civilization. Your world, as it collectively matures, is rapidly learning a crucial lesson that intellectual philosophy, no matter how eloquent or intricate, when divorced from lived demonstration and tangible application, no longer satisfies the deeper yearning of the human spirit for long. People are no longer solely hungry for abstract ideas or theoretical concepts. They are profoundly hungry for felt coherency of visceral, undeniable sense of inner and outer alignment. They are yearning with increasing urgency for a reality that genuinely works, that produces tangible well-being, authentic connection, and sustainable harmony. Consequently, the systems and structures that are destined to truly thrive and endure in this new era are those that can unequivocally be demonstrated through their tangible, positive impact. These are the systems that demonstrably produce measurable well-being for all participants, cultivate an atmosphere of genuine transparency and openness, manifest real and equitable justice, foster authentic and vibrant community, and facilitate the constant, active restoration of trust through consistent integrity. This profound shift in collective discernment is precisely why you will increasingly observe a growing intolerance for leadership that is merely empty rhetoric and symbolic gestures devoid of substance. A title, no matter how prestigious, when unaccompanied by genuine inner alignment and integrity, registers as nothing more than a hollow costume worn by an actor. Authority, when lacking true coherence and authentic wisdom, begins to feel disturbingly like thinly veiled manipulation. The human collective is now rapidly developing the capacity to intuitively feel and recognize this critical difference, distinguishing between true substance and superficial performance. This profound inner rewriting of individual consciousness also signifies that a growing multitude will consciously begin to move away from rigid, organized structures and doctrines that aggressively claim exclusive access to truth or assert themselves as the sole arbiters of reality. You will witness the undeniable decline of narrow, only this way thinking, a dogmatic rigidity that stifles exploration. Furthermore, you will observe the gradual, yet significant, softening of fanaticism, extremism, and ideological inflexibility, precisely because fanaticism, by its very nature, cannot possibly survive the illuminating force of expanded perception and truly open-minded inquiry. Unvarnished truth, in its purity, simply cannot be genuinely apprehended or understood through the distorting lens of prejudice, preconceived notions, or unexamined biases. The authentic inner path, the journey of self-discovery and connection, intrinsically demands profound freedom from inherited societal biases and conditioned beliefs, freedom from the ego's tenacious need to always be right or superior, and freedom from the limiting, often divisive, superstition that the divine, God, or source consciousness belongs exclusively to one particular group, religion, or lineage. As humanity collectively begins to awaken to the profound realization that truth is an intrinsic, internal experience and simultaneously a universal, all-encompassing principle, the very social fabric of your world will organically begin to rebuild and reweave itself in more harmonious patterns. People will increasingly learn to relate to one another across perceived differences in entirely new and inclusive ways. They will begin to value authentic, energetic resonance and heartfelt connection over superficial labels, divisive categories, or external affiliations. They will consciously recognize that beings traversing a multitude of diverse spiritual paths can, with utmost sincerity, be profoundly connected to the same ultimate source, and that the only true and legitimate authority is found in lived union with that source, an embodied state of grace, rather than in any external affiliation or hierarchical position. Concurrently, we do not in any way deny or diminish the reality that this comprehensive rewriting and profound transformation can, at times, feel intensely turbulent, unsettling, and even chaotic. When deeply ingrained old agreements and established paradigms begin to dissolve, the individual and collective mind can understandably feel adrift, unmoored from its previous points of reference. When once familiar and seemingly stable institutions visibly waver and begin to crumble, a natural human tendency is to experience fear and even widespread panic. This is precisely why the cultivation of inner union becomes not merely beneficial, but absolutely essential during these dynamic times, because it provides an unshakable, stable center of being, a sanctuary of coherence, while the external world undergoes its profound and often chaotic reorganization. Consider once more the profound wisdom offered by the metaphor of the branch. If the branch mistakenly believes that its very life and sustenance are solely dependent upon the unpredictable whims of external weather patterns, it will perpetually live in a state of fear, anxiety, and vulnerability. However, if it consciously remembers and deeply knows that it is inextricably connected to a deeper, inexhaustible supply of life force flowing through its sturdy trunk and deep, nourishing roots, then it remains inherently steady, resilient, and unwavering through all the varying seasons of change, drawing sustenance from an internal wellspring. Similarly, a society that operates under the limiting belief that its security and stability are derived solely from external control and rigid enforcement will inevitably succumb to widespread panic and chaos when those mechanisms of control inevitably falter or collapse. Conversely, a society that consciously remembers and truly embraces the profound truth that its ultimate foundation is pure consciousness and intrinsic, intelligent, self-organizing field will naturally and gracefully reorganize itself into a state of authentic coherence, drawing upon its inherent wisdom and resilience. In this evolving landscape, you will also witness the powerful emergence and proliferation of myriad decentralized support networks, organic, interconnected webs of conscious individuals gathering in various configurations. These will manifest as dynamic communities of practice, where shared wisdom is honed as truth communities, dedicated to open inquiry and authentic sharing as compassionate healing communities, fostering deep restoration and as insightful discernment communities, where collective wisdom guides clarity. Some of these will adopt formal structures, but many, perhaps most, will remain gloriously informal and fluid. They will not always present themselves as traditional movements with overt leaders or manifestos. Yet, collectively, they will function as humanity's new, highly responsive nervous system, quietly, yet powerfully supporting internal and collective regulation, generously sharing profound insights and awakened perspectives, freely exchanging vital resources, and consistently reinforcing individual and collective sovereignty. Recalling your previous revered spiritual lineages and ancient traditions, you can identify historical parallels. There were often sacred prayer circles, focused meditation circles, and compassionate healing circles that collectively wove a vibrant, living band of consciousness around the globe, connecting hearts and minds in common purpose. In modern terms, you are now actively creating precisely the same powerful phenomenon, utilizing both emergent new technologies as conduits and drawing upon timeless, innate human instinct, specifically the profound, resonant instinct to gather in coherent, unified intention, amplifying collective energy. This phenomenon, while seemingly extraordinary, is not magic in the conventional sense. Rather, it is the profound and quantifiable effect of collective resonance, a synergistic amplification of shared energetic frequency, and it stands as one of the most potent and indispensable stabilizers for the ongoing, profound rewriting and reorchestration of your civilization. As society continues its deep and pervasive rewriting, those individuals and groups who have previously operated and thrived by relying upon intricate webs of secrecy and pervasive manipulation will undeniably feel the very ground beneath them begin to tremble and shift with increasing intensity. Their responses, however, will not be uniform or predictable. Some will instinctively choose to entrench themselves even more deeply, hardening their resolve and doubling down on old tactics. Others, unable to withstand the internal and external pressures, will visibly fracture, their coherent structures and belief systems collapsing. And a growing number will, with varying degrees of conscious intent, actively begin to seek exits from the dissolving paradigms and control structures. This complex dynamic leads us directly to an unspoken truth that many of you sense intuitively but rarely articulate aloud: the profound and often overlooked fact that even those individuals operating from within the densest, most insulated, and seemingly impenetrable control structures are by no means immune to the powerful, transformative influence of the rising wave of collective consciousness. Its energetic reach is far more pervasive than you might imagine. We choose to speak with deliberate care and precision here. Our intention is not, in any way, to inflate fear or to amplify anxiety within the collective. nor do we seek to steer your valuable attention towards obsessive scrutiny or to inadvertently create perceived enemies from the shadows of the unknown. Rather, our purpose is solely to illuminate a fundamental and undeniable principle of existence consciousness in its boundless and all-pervading nature, intrinsically touches every single being without exception. No meticulously constructed identity, no elevated rank, no prestigious title, and no deeply ingrained loyalty, no matter how fiercely held, can ever fully shield a mind from the relentless internal pressure generated by an awakening and rapidly expanding energetic field of consciousness. What many among you colloquially refer to as the Cabal is, at its fundamental root, not a monolithic entity, but rather an intricate, adaptive network of highly refined control strategies meticulously constructed and sustained through the calculated deployment of secrecy, the insidious manipulation of fear, the deliberate amplification of division, the fostering of profound dependency, and sophisticated methods of perception management. Yet, even these historically potent strategies depend entirely upon one singular, fundamental condition for their continued efficacy: that a sufficient number of humans remain inwardly disconnected from their true selves and their source, and are therefore externally malleable and controllable. However, as that critical condition, a widespread inner disconnection of humanity progressively dissolves and weakens, the entire control network begins to experience not only increasing external resistance from an awakening populace, but also, and more profoundly, an escalating internal dissonance and systemic disharmony. Within these intricately structured hierarchies, meticulously built upon layers of profound secrecy, there exist individuals who, for extended periods, once obeyed directives and maintained conformity without experiencing any significant inner conflict. This was often either because their conditioning was so complete and pervasive, effectively numbing their moral compass, or because their very survival and perceived well-being depended entirely upon unquestioning conformity to the established order. But now, as the collective energetic field increasingly illuminates and the vibrations of truth permeate all layers of existence, deep-seated inner conflicts inevitably begin to arise within these individuals. The soul, that deepest essence of one's being, does not always communicate its truths as a gentle, easily ignorable whisper. Sometimes its call manifests as profound, inexplicable exhaustion that no amount of rest can alleviate. At other times, as persistent sleeplessness, disrupting the mind's ability to compartmentalize. It may present as a sudden, undeniable loss of taste or enthusiasm for the old life, the old pursuits, or the old systems. It can manifest as a haunting, persistent sense that one is living profoundly out of alignment with one's own authentic soul's purpose and intrinsic truth. Or it may emerge as a silent, inexplicable pain that unexpectedly surfaces in moments of quiet reflection, as if the inner being is profoundly grieving the precious years, decades even, that were spent separated from its own inherent truth and integrity. These powerful internal experiences can manifest in diverse ways for different individuals. Some may interpret it as a burgeoning sense of profound guilt or remorse. Others may feel it as an escalating existential fear of exposure or retribution. Yet for many, it arises as an overwhelming, undeniable desire to be truly free, not merely from the external constraints and coercive demands of the system itself, but perhaps even more profoundly, free from a self-imposed inner prison of compartmentalization that psychological division and fragmentation that the maintenance of deep secrecy inexorably demands. And indeed, beloved ones, secrecy, particularly on a grand, systemic scale, inherently and absolutely demands profound compartmentalization. This is because, in order to successfully sustain a complex lie or a pervasive deception, the human mind must intricately divide itself, creating distinct, isolated mental chambers. It must diligently keep one version of the truth, the unvarnished reality, securely confined in one mental room, while simultaneously maintaining another, fabricated version and narrative of the lie in an entirely separate mental compartment, never permitting the doors to these rooms to open or the contents to mix at the same time. Such a profound and continuous internal division inevitably fractures the coherence of the being, leading to deep internal discord. And fractured beings, those constantly expending immense energy to maintain inner separation, inherently and profoundly tire their vital life force is drained by this internal struggle. This profound inner exhaustion and fragmentation is precisely why you will increasingly observe exits from these systems that, at first glance, may not appear conventionally heroic or dramatically defiant. Some individuals will simply leave quietly, perhaps even unnoticed by the broader public, slipping away from their positions. Others will step away under the convenient pretext of personal reasons or health issues, offering a socially acceptable explanation for their departure. A more severe manifestation will see some individuals withdraw entirely, succumbing to sudden illness, experiencing profound mental or emotional collapse, or even disappearing from public life altogether, not as a choice, but because their psyche, unable to bear the immense weight of sustained contradiction and internal conflict, can simply no longer function within the old parameters. Still others will attempt to carefully negotiate their exit, navigating a delicate balance where they release partial truths, carefully selected and controlled, while consciously withholding other, more sensitive information, precisely because the tenacious grip of fear of retribution, fear of the unknown, fear of judgment still clings powerfully to them. Many will initially emerge as reluctant messengers, offering only what they cautiously believe can be safely revealed. Yet, even a partial release of truth, a seemingly minor concession, possesses the potent capacity to open a critical crack in a previously impregnable wall. And it is through such small cracks, initially imperceptible, that entire, formidable walls ultimately begin to compromise and fail. A single, genuinely honest sentence, courageously spoken from within the deepest, most sealed and tightly controlled structures, carries an enormous, reverberating power not just for its content, but primarily because it unequivocally communicates to the entire collective field that the previously absolute silence has been broken, that its reign is no longer unchallenged. And once that chilling, enforced silence is no longer absolute, no longer an unassailable condition, the entire intricate architecture of control, built upon its foundations, begins irrevocably to waver, to destabilize, and to ultimately crumble. We gently remind you this unfolding dynamic does not imply, in any way, that you should blindly trust every utterance or uncritically accept every single voice claiming to bear the truth. On the contrary, your faculty of discernment remains absolutely essential, indeed paramount, in these complex times, and we will further elaborate on its importance. Yet, it does profoundly signify that the accelerating awakening wave of consciousness is already generating very practical, tangible, and unavoidable consequences within the existing systems. Crucially, genuine exit paths are actively forming, pathways to freedom and integrity that previously seemed non-existent. Those individuals who once felt hopelessly trapped within the suffocating confines of these control structures may now discover unexpected openings, opportunities for release and realignment. And these crucial openings will continue to multiply exponentially as the collective consciousness progressively becomes less addicted to the reactive impulses of vengeance and retribution, and more profoundly aligned with the principles of authentic accountability and genuine repair. For the entire energetic field of human consciousness to truly undergo a profound and lasting transformation, unvarnished truth must, unequivocally, be spoken, brought forth into the light. And this truth is far more likely to be spoken and revealed when the potential speaker feels, within their deepest core, that a viable and meaningful future can exist for them beyond the act of their confession or disclosure, rather than facing only ruin. This fundamental understanding is precisely why we earnestly invite humanity to consciously hold a higher, more evolved posture in these critical times, not one of naive, unconditional forgiveness that absolves without understanding, nor a denial of past wrongdoing or harm inflicted. Instead, we call for a mature, integrated relationship with consequence. Consequence, in its essence, is a profound teacher, imparting invaluable lessons through lived experience.